Welcome to Eye on South Asia. This is Anjali Sharma at the studio. Today we have a guest, Professor Sachi Dastidar. He is a professor at State University of New York at Old Westbury. He teaches urban planning, public administration, and human rights. He is the founder of Indian Subcontinent Documentation Project and also Provini Foundation, which helps orphans in Bangladesh and in India. Welcome to Professor Sachi Dastidar. You are the founder of Indian Subcontinent Partition Documentation Project. Can you tell us about ISPAT project, when and how the idea came?
That's very nice. As you said, Indian Subcontinent Partition Documentation Project, in short we call ISPAT. It evolved over a long period of time. I have been working on partition of Bengal and subsequent social political changes in West Bengal and Bangladesh for over, I would say, 30 to 40 years. And I have visited Bangladesh and West Bengal on a regular basis. And then I started to write social political changes. And then as I went back to, our family was refugee from Bangladesh, as was my wife's family, my uncle, aunt, grandparents, everybody, and including hers. So as we went to visit our ancestral place, the new village, Notun Bari, Notun place, they called, they live since 1500s onwards. And the old one, they live another, and which I have visited, written history goes to almost first millennium. So we couldn't be more indigenous than any place. Yet what we are finding, that places were emptying, that there were places where they were 100% Hindu. Now there are none or very small number of people. So as a matter of fact, in one time, an elderly lady even asked me that, sir, where do our people go? Babu, amader lokera jai kothay? Where do our people go? So then I started to think that we just cannot be vanishing in thin air. We must be going like our families. And then in 1980s, the Bangladeshi president, then a military dictator, received an award for reducing population growth. So a gentleman in Bangladesh, a Muslim gentleman, a scholar, he asked me, brother, can you take a look if this is happening because Bangladesh has seriously reduced population growth, or is it because of people leaving the country? So it's a good rate of growth has come. So that started initially, started the project. And then over 30 years I have written many articles, many books. And finally I started to document that from where people are living, how much, how many. Then came up this book called Empire's Last Casualty, which I tried to document. Yes, tried to document the loss of population since partition of Bengal in 47, which is enormous. Bangladesh in 47 was almost 1/3 Hindu, 1/3 minority. They are Buddhist and Muslim and Christians also, small number, but they're down to less than 10% now, which is almost 49 million Hindus have vanished from the census since 1947 and 2001 census. I ended in 2001. So that's when, and then people came and told me stories. People who survived there, people who had to flee, who came to India penniless refugees. And then there were people, courageous people in Bangladesh, Muslims, who tried to protect their minorities, to So then I said their stories have to be saved because people like my family lived there. Indian history goes for over 1,000 years. So after some generations, people will not know that these people existed. So with that in mind, then we started this Indian subcontinent partition documentation project, and which then we formed a non-profit organization in New York, and then it got tax exempt status of the federal government, and then we started working. And we have had, for the last 3 years, we have had 3 conferences. People have come from Indians, Bangladeshis, Pakistanis, all different groups of people have come to present. Now even people are presenting from Ireland, from Korea, the places that those have been divided, they have come forward. So that's how the beginning and now how we are going.
Your family, among many millions of other Hindus, fled the atrocities in 1947 Bangladesh and post-partition.
Yeah, from 47 he started, and there is a saying they call the tear of Ganges. That means the tears of so many people have made another Ganges. That means so many people, there is, we call Ostruganga. That means this tear has created another Ganges, tear of so many people leaving their home. But it is 47, and that process continues even today.
Which year your family actually fled to India, West Bengal?
Oh, I mean, they came to Calcutta. Almost.
They came to Calcutta.
Yeah, most of them, those who were educated, who were professionals. The first target was Calcutta because my family, my father was very highly educated. He studied in Britain way back, engineering in 1920s. So he was engineer from Glasgow. At that time, people used to go to Glasgow for engineering, not MIT. So they were very, and then when he came back, before in 30s and 40s, he worked all over India, from Punjab and what is today Haryana, to Burma, to Nagaland, and all of these places he worked. But and then many of them, even before 47, our brothers who were also did very well in education, they came to study in Calcutta for school. At that time, all those who were very good, they would come to Calcutta for higher studies. So they came, but they never. But the home was in Bangladesh.
Can you also talk about there are some enclaves, Hindu enclaves in Bangladesh, and some Muslim enclaves on the eastern Indian part. How can you talk about that?
Well, yeah. First of all, in West Bengal, we had at the time of the partition, there were 18% population was Muslim, but that number now has gone to 27%. In spite of the fact, huge number of Hindus officially has come to West Bengal. Actually, we estimate that almost 1/3 of West Bengal is Bangladeshi Hindu refugee. The term for Bangladeshi Hindus are called Bangal or East Bengali. So the number, instead of Muslim number proportionately, instead of going down, it has gone up. So that means there is tremendous growth there. In West Bengal, there was one district at the time of partition was Muslim majority, which is Murshidabad, which is still Muslim majority now. But now they estimate that there may be another 5-6 which are Muslim majority. So in West Bengal, not just enclaves, there is a huge number who are there. And in case of Bangladesh, there were, for example, a district Khulna, which was Hindu majority, but it is no more. Still, there are almost 25-26% are Hindu. There were many areas in Bangladesh, in the district of Barisal, Faridpur. These are the coastal areas in in the north, in Dinajpur, or in the further east, in Sylhet, they were Hindu majority. There are pockets which are Hindu majority, but of course, as you know, if the number has come down from 1/3 to 10%, those majority areas have also shrunk. But then there are few pockets which are also Hindu majority. In Bangladesh, you also have Buddhist majority area in Chittagong Hills. Chittagong Hills used to be 97-98% non-Muslim. At the time of partition, they wanted to join India. They flew Indian flag for over 2 weeks, but for some reason, they blame Jawaharlal Nehru, who didn't care to take that place, which was 97% non-Muslim, and as by the formula of partition, there should have been gone to India. But once they took over, joined Pakistan, then not during Pakistan, during Bangladeshi time, during another general army rule, General Zia, who literally lifted about 250,000 to 300,000 Muslim Bengalis and settled them into that area, which they are almost minority now. The Buddhists are almost minority, and they have been insurgents since this colonization.
You have written 2 books, Living Among Believers and Empire's Last Casualty. Can you talk about these 2 books?
Let me first talk about not Empire's Last Casualty, but the other book, Living Among the Believers. It's a collection of short stories, 18 short stories based on my field work. As I go into the villages, people tell me their stories, how they have survived or they have not survived. Some are very painful, some are gratifying, that how they have succeeded in spite of this thing, how people have come to help them. So that those are actually people who can never speak, who have never voiced. This is extremely poor people, oppressed people, mostly oppressed caste people, and so those are the stories of that. And Empire's Last Casualty is a documentation of this loss, how many people were lost, as I mentioned, and the more difficult part was how many were killed, because killing is very hard to document, but the pogrom started right in 47, 48, 49, 50, 52, 54, 62, 65. 64, there was a huge killing called Hazrat Bal killing. 71. So those were the more hard thing to document, but I had to document where I could find reference from newspapers and books, not hearsay. So those are the things that I try to document, so that at least people would know that we existed one time over there.
You just returned from India. Sorry. You have just returned from India, where you gave a presentation of Ispat project. Can you talk about your trip?
Yeah, I went to India to teach and to do some work, and then I also traveled. And then but what happened is this: during my stay, as people came to know me, huge number of people wanted to tell their story, and accidentally there's a large number of Kashmiri Hindus who came, because they think their story nobody knows. They wanted to tell. We had a Bengali Muslim who went to Bangladesh and now was in Delhi. So we interviewed a Bihari Muslim whose part family went to Bangladesh, and then they came to Bihar, then to Nepal, to Pakistan. And then we had a Bengali Muslim from Bangladesh who is a writer who writes to protect Bengali minorities in Bangladesh. We interviewed a Bengali Hindu refugee whose family fled from Bangladesh to Calcutta, then to Delhi. So a large number of people who came. And then people came to tell their stories, but there were people who came but couldn't to be interviewed because they're afraid their family is still there on the other side of the border. They're afraid if they say something, they may be harmed. So we had a Buddhist who came, who is originally from Bangladesh. Quite a few other people who came. Even when I was in Calcutta, there were other people who came. So it was quite productive, you know.
If our viewers would like to know more about ISPAT, can you tell us where they can find more information?
Thank you for asking. So there are two ways. One is if you go to internet and type ISPAT, ISPAD, I for India, S for subcontinent, P for PA for partition, D for documentation, 1947.org, ispat.1947.org, they can find us, or they can email us at ispat, ISPAD1947 @gmail.com. We'll be happy to hear if there are people who want to help us in terms of giving their stories, if there are people who can help us financially, because it's enormous amount of money we have to raise. We have our first intern who was a Pakistani Muslim, who is a very young man who interned with us. We had a Pakistani Muslim who worked for us, is a young lady. Then we have a black American who has been working for us. Then we have a person of Bangladeshi Hindu origin, born here, who is working for us. So there are people who are working, helping us. So if there are people who can help us, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming, Professor Dastidar. And thank you so much for watching Eye on South Asia, and we'll see you next week.